Lisa,
Yes, baby girl.
when I grow up, I want to be a womanist to society.
Then so shall you be.
Hey, this is Lisa Landry. Welcome to A Menace to Society. I'm so stoked today. I'm at Big Pine Comedy Festival, and I have the privilege of introducing today's guest. He is not just a comedian, he's also a commercial airline pilot. You may have seen him on Last Comic Standing. He's the winner of the New York Underground Comedy Competition.
Wow.
And he also won the Comedy Starter Kit competition. Please welcome to the podcast, Chen.
Thank you very much. I'm impressed by your research. Wow, that was a lot of old web pages you had to go
You've
through.
done a lot of stuff, you know. And I don't typically have comedians on the podcast.
Oh, okay.
We usually interview activists and anarchists and artists as well. So thank you for being here because you are quite the artist.
Well, I was a little bit panicked when you said activist when we met yesterday. I was like, I got 24 hours to get woke, and so that was. But, I was curious because I got my schedule I think it was like a month ago, and then I saw this on there, the Woman's podcast, and there must be some mistake. So I'm curious, how did you find me?
Actually, you know, the festival was letting me know they do a lot of podcasts here.
Yeah.
And your name was one of the people who was going to appear, one of the comedians here. A lot of great comedians here. And I saw you on YouTube, and I thought, you know, I really want to talk to this guy. He's interesting.
Oh, okay, cool.
Not like everybody else isn't interested, but just you piqued my interest because you do something that I think is so fun. You make fun of Asian stereotypes.
Oh, yeah.
And there are a lot of them out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what bit you saw. Maybe it was Asians in sports or something like that.
I saw that one, and I also saw you talking about your marriage, being married.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
You know, I do relationship, so I was like, hey, this is really funny.
Okay.
And you know, you're an Asian American, and you're married to a white chick, but you're Chinese American, and most Chinese Americans don't marry outside of Chinese American or Chinese culture.
Yeah, for the males. Yeah, the males.
It's very
usually
unusual.
Stick to the tribe, but yeah, the females.
So
tend to wander.
what was that like when you brought home your white woman? How did your family react?
They were totally fine with it, and I gotta say that's probably one of the stronger things about our marriage is that in-laws has never been an issue. Like when I brought home Karen, they were awesome to her, and then when I met her parents, they were always awesome. They've always been awesome to me, and it's never, race has never been an issue in our marriage with the in-laws. So
Yeah.
That's been great.
Is it an issue for other people?
Not really.
No.
No. I think I did kind of want to talk about that. Maybe I've lived a very charmed life, right?
You're West Coast, right?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Seattle, and that's where I grew up. And my mom and dad both immigrated from China. My mom came over when she was about a teenager. My dad came over for college, and they met at University of Michigan, and eventually ended up in Seattle. My dad worked for Boeing, which...
My dad worked for Boeing.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
We have a lot of stuff in common.
I guess we do.
Because you're Navy, and my mama's family pretty much all signed up for the Navy.
Yeah.
Or served in the Navy.
And your mom did a full career?
She was Chief Petty Officer.
Wow.
But she joined as a reservist. It was like a missing link in her life. She almost hit 40, and she was like, well, what have I done? I haven't accomplished enough. My brother is this high muckety-muck in the Navy. And
she enlisted?
He's on the Trident sub, and I want to accomplish something. So,
Wow.
she joined up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you move around a lot?
No, we didn't do that. She just left. My mom would sign up for temporary active duty so she could get away from us.
It's a perfect plan.
My mom would be like, I'm going to Heidelberg to drink. Fuck y'all.
Oh, wow.
But, you know, it's a way to see the world and serve your country.
Yeah.
Why did you enlist?
I think I was always influenced. There was kind of aviation in our family. My uncle was a pilot. He was in the Taiwanese Air Force, and he became a 747 captain for China Airlines. And then my dad, saying he worked for Boeing, he was actually a salesman for Boeing. He sold.
My dad was too.
Really? I'm going to ask if
That's
my
so
dad
weird.
knows your dad. That's incredible.
They probably got drunk in some random city at some
They
point.
probably did. Yeah, he primarily sold to the China market, and So he did that for years. Like
My dad was dealing with the rednecks, so different market.
Okay, very good. So he traveled all the time. He was gone all the time, traveling back and forth to China. So like aviation was always kind of in our family. So that maybe that just gave me the early influence. And I remember being in high school, and I want to be an Air Force pilot. And like somebody stopped me and said, well, the best pilots are Navy pilots. They land on aircraft carriers, which is very challenging.
It's hard.
It is crazy. Sometimes I can't even believe I did it. I flew. It's called the E-2C Hawkeye, which is a radar airplane, has a dome on top, but it is a carrier-based aircraft. So I did that a lot, and it is scary. It's probably the scariest thing I've ever done. But it's scary, but you have to remain calm and focus so that you can land on the carrier. You can't freak out.
So what you're saying is you're really good at bar gigs?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yes. Go ahead, turn on the ESPN and the Golden Tee. I can work through it. So.
Don't matter.
Maybe there is some good training into it, but I mean, there are times I remember landing on an aircraft carrier, like at night, like you're lying if you're not scared doing it at night, because it's just pitch dark. You don't have a horizon sometimes. And that's the only place that you can land for thousands of miles. That's the only place that you're gonna make it on board. So, and you have 4 other guys who are depending on you in my airplane to make it on the deck. So I remember landing sometimes. I would land, and it wasn't even over then, because like I would land, and then the E2 we had to fold our wings, and then we had to like back up and taxi behind the island of the aircraft carrier. And the way that you would do it is you'd have to go in reverse pitch on the propellers and use the reverse thrust to back yourself up. So you are at night backing an airplane backwards towards the end of the aircraft carrier with your tail sticking over the edge of the deck. And then also on top of that, you couldn't use the brakes. If you hit the brakes, the nose would go up of the airplane. So it was this fine, like, detailing thing, trying to keep it in reverse, but not so much that you would go over the edge of the aircraft carrier. So there was all this stress because you had to do that in a certain amount of time because another airplane was coming to land. So you didn't want to screw that guy over that he had to go around. So there were times when I do that. That was almost as stressful as landing on the aircraft carrier. There were like nights I remember I would like land, I would shut down the airplane, and I had to sit in the airplane for about 10 minutes. Because my knees were shaking so bad because I couldn't get out of the airplane. Sometimes I make an excuse like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to rest here for a second. But, no, it was scary. But I'll tell you, like, stand-up comedy, I still get nervous about it. I mean,
well, yeah, like who doesn't? That's human.
Yeah.
But you have this discipline. I know I had Greg Cope White on the podcast, and he was a Marine who is an artist, worked with Norman Lear, accomplished a bunch of stuff in our industry, and he said that the discipline that he learned in the military informs his art.
Yeah.
I would think what you've been through, that kind of drama, that kind of discipline, is why you're so amazing, in part, on the stage.
Yeah, maybe it does transfer. Flying, I think, yeah, there is a lot of discipline to it, but I think that attracts me to stand-up comedy, that there is that kind of, you can use your imagination and creativity, and maybe not imagining creativity is so expected in flying a commercial airplane around. You don't want to go, hey, watch me do this. Look what I'm doing now. But so that's the kind of thing I like that about stand-up comedy. But there is also, I guess, that discipline and trying to be precise. I like the precision also that you have to be sometimes as a stand-up too.
I've seen you on stage today for the first time live.
Yeah, that was so much fun.
I love your discipline and your precision because you do have the science down to, okay, this is my joke, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Spontaneous, you're not by rote by any stretch, but there is this whole, okay, this is how I'm going to present for you, and it's not just stuff on a plate I love that about comedy,
And I love that show because for those, we were at this other show where comics would go up and you guys kind of critique them. And there were some guys who were kind of new. And the thing I loved, one of the comedians who was critiquing said to one of the new guys is that you really want to edit out anything that doesn't contribute to the joke or is to the setup of the joke. And that was so awesome.
Oh, yeah, you're probably into dead weight. You throw it overboard.
Yeah, there
Right?
we go. Yes, I get rid of it. Yeah, I love that. I always tell that to new stand-ups is like editing is a big part of stand-up. Just grind it down to just its essential.
Just what you need to pack in the suitcase.
Yeah, exactly. Just what you need to make the joke work. So I do like doing I like doing that about stand-up. That's something I love.
It shows in your act.
Oh, thank you.
Do you ever feel the desire to mess with people over the PA announcements when you're flying, like just to do your set or roast people who are annoying?
I don't know.
I would have a hard time with that, brother. If I had a mic
Yeah.
and they can't get off the plane,
Right.
you can just go for it.
Well, I think I told you that I just fly cargo, so
Yeah, but
that would just be crazy.
you can just...
Who's he talking to?
Is he talking to Wilson? Is that the ball from the movie?
Yeah, exactly.
You are. You're like the Castaway pilot.
If you've seen the movie Castaway, the plane that Tom Hanks crashes in is an MD-11, and that's the plane I've been flying for about 20 years. So that is the exact same
That's
airplane.
why you're on the podcast,
Yes,
Ed.
yes, that's right.
What is that like?
Flying cargo? Or
Yeah, like knowing that you're flying the plane that the person was, stranded on a desert island because of this plane
I know. It's
dysfunctioning or malfunctioning.
I know. I watch it. Oh, that's not right. That's totally different in the movie. Here's my Castaway story, though. So I play golf a lot, and I got teamed up with like these 3 other guys who I didn't even know. And so, like, it invariably comes out, this is what I do for a living, and, I'm a pilot for FedEx. And they, oh, wow, yeah, that Castaway movie, yeah. And, yeah, the Castaway movie. And the guy goes, does that guy still work for your company? And, like, initially, I laughed. Yes, just like you, I laughed. He was dead serious. He thought that movie was based on a real story. Like, there is a Tom Hanks character who works at FedEx. Yeah, sits in his office alone talking to a volleyball. But yeah, that is crazy. But yeah,
What did you say?
But I said that
What did you
after
say
I
about
saw
it?
that movie. After I saw that movie, like we do have people fly on the airplane. But I said after that movie, I don't show anybody where the life raft is because if I'm not getting out, they're fucking not getting out either. So it's a buddy movie. That's right. But
What are some of the best places you've been to?
favorite places. Like in Asia, Singapore is like my top place to go to. That's just an awesome city. As I always tell people, that's where a dictatorship actually worked because it was just like one guy who ran that country for like 50 plus years. And it's an amazing city country. I guess that's what you would call it.
Why? What happens there?
It's just modern, very clean city, very safe city. I don't know if you remember, like they have all these strict rules, like no chewing gum.
I
and
actually
all that.
went to a wedding with somebody as a guest, as a date, who his friend was in Singapore, and he's one of the white kids who got caned. Do you remember that?
Yes.
When the white kid
Yes,
got caned?
that was
It
like
was an
late
oil
eight-
company. I grew up in the Deep South. And it was his friend who was the white kid who got
Yes,
caned
yeah,
for
that's
being
like
a brat.
That like brought to light the discipline of
Of
yeah, they don't
Singapore.
fuck around there.
Yeah, they don't fuck around. You will be caned in public. It don't
But as
matter
I
your
say,
ethnic background or your money. You will
It's
be.
a great city, though. It is amazing. The food there is incredible.
And if
so-
you're bratty, we'll beat the fuck
yes,
out of
go
you in
ahead
the public
and cane a
square.
few more if the food gets better. But yeah, it's a great city. It's very modern, very safe, and it's cool. It's just a big confluence of different ethnicities, and yeah, amazing place. So I love there. I go to Paris a lot, and Paris is amazing. I go there maybe too much because I say, oh, I'm tired of going to Paris, and my wife gives me all this sympathy, right, about going to Paris too much. But yeah, Paris.
Do you speak French when you're there?
After about 6 beers, I will try and do my like 7th grade level.
I will now mingle
French.
your language.
Yes, yes. use the familiar verb form all the time. But I do remember. I do remember going to Paris, and I went to this like Chinese buffet thing where like the woman will put the food on your plate, and I tried to communicate with her in French, English, and Chinese, and failed in all three languages because I don't speak Chinese, and I know a few words, but yeah, it's like
I have trouble with English sometimes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you speak another language?
I speak French very badly,
Yeah,
and I
okay.
can speak enough like Spanish to get beat up in Mexico. Like, I know like choice words that I should not speak. But yeah, I'm the evil American, the spoiled American. I don't enjoy traveling abroad. Actually, I get freaked
Really?
out. Yeah, I went to England and I did not enjoy it because it's so quiet.
Yeah.
Like it made me feel very like, okay, don't touch that, don't put that there. I felt like I was in my grandparents and I could piss anybody off at the wrong time doing something.
Oh, wow. You just
Yeah.
felt like everything was very formal.
I felt it was
and
very
posh.
puritanical and very old school, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I get freaked out. But I've never been to France. I've never been to Paris.
Oh yeah, Paris is awesome. Beautiful city. So yeah, those are probably my top two favorite places to go.
Do you travel with your wife a lot, or do you go solo?
Well, FedEx mostly. I'm traveling all over. Well, yeah, we've done stuff. We did a motorcycle trip to Croatia once, so that was a lot of fun.
That's random.
Yeah, it was kind of. Well, it was because I have a friend. He was a Navy pilot too, but he was born in Croatia. So we all went over for a motorcycle trip, but that was so amazing. I mean, Croatia is like this hidden gem that I don't think people in the United States know about. It's like Europeans might know about Croatia, but it's just beautiful. Oh my God, it's just lovely. So
All I know is the wars over there.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
yeah, they had like the wars in the early '90s. We were in oh my God, why can't I remember Dubrovnik, and they have Old Town Dubrovnik, which was actually a real popular film site for Game of Thrones. Like part of it is filmed in Dubrovnik, but that in the early '90s they were shelling that place. And it was like, wow, oh my God, because it's such a beautiful old city, and they were like
Civil
lobbing
War is
artillery.
bullshit.
It is.
I really hope we can avoid it here.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
What did they think of you? I had a friend, a very white friend, redheaded woman who's about 6 feet tall. And she can speak Mandarin. And she went to
Wow.
China and she toured. And she would tell me, like, she would walk into smaller villages and smaller towns, and people would stare
Yeah.
and come up and touch her and touch her hair.
Right.
Not because they were being rude. They were just like, who is this giant white thing with red hair?
Wow.
How did they treat you? Did they trip on you
Oh.
in Croatia?
Oh, in Croatia? No, Croatia was great. It was great. I will tell you, though, going to China or Asia, that's kind of stressful for me. I thought that's where you were leading because I don't speak Chinese, right?
Oh.
Right? So they like, because they'll like, and I like almost sometimes dread some places going out. Like Taiwan, I really do dread because they don't really speak English that much. Like Singapore, everyone speaks English, but Taiwan, Taipei, I'll go out. Oh no, here it comes. Like I try to order food, and they just keep speaking Chinese to me, and like I don't know like what to do. It's like, no, I can't. Me speak only English. I don't know. It's like. And eventually, they realize I'm mentally incompetent, and
Bring us some chicken fingers and mayonnaise.
yeah, exactly. So that's always kind of stressful for me going to China
I'm
or
sorry.
Asia. Just the language barrier.
pressure.
Because if you're white, they just assume that you can't speak the English, and then it gets on from there. But if I'm just being Chinese, they just think I'm in on the lingo, and
Yeah,
I have to
being
work
rude.
through that.
Yeah.
It's stressful
I
sometimes.
can only imagine. So what do you think of the whole Hong Kong thing?
Oh, it's going crazy. Yeah.
I'm supportive, though.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that they can accomplish their
Yeah.
goals.
Yeah, I know. I was alive during the Tiananmen Square thing, so I don't know how
How far they'll
hopeful-
get.
Yeah, exactly. Before the clampdown comes, I don't know. It's scary. I mean, that's a hard transition for Hong Kong because for all those years they were, under, British rule, but they did have some sort of autonomy and all that. But yeah, to be under the Chinese, and they said they were going to lay off for a number of years, but I think they're trying to push the boundaries of what's going on. So
It's fun to watch. Not
Yeah,
fun, like, hey, let's have popcorn and a beer. But it's kind of, it interests me. I'm an anarchist at heart.
Yeah.
So I love watching these young people rise up and saying, no more of this. And I don't know, like, if I were Chinese cultured, I think maybe I'd be more invested.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about it, but.
Well, I don't. It's interesting for me because, my father's side of the family, which he did have a very interesting upbringing. He was born in China. He was the youngest of, I think, 6 kids. So, and my grandfather on my father's side. So my dad's father was the head speechwriter for Chiang Kai-shek.
Dang.
Yeah, yeah. And so when the communists took over, it wasn't a good place for him to be. And so he left, my grandfather left China with the 2 youngest sons, my dad and my uncle, who I said was the pilot. And they went to like Hong Kong initially and went to Taiwan. So my dad left the country, and he did not see his 4 older siblings for almost, I think, 30 years. I mean, they were separated for the longest time.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So it was kind of weird. He had no idea what happened to him. There was no communication. What happened was, though, Nixon reestablished kind of, he visited China. And then more during the Carter administration, China kind of reached out and says, hey, we don't have any airplanes. And then I said, my dad's the salesman for Boeing. So he went back to China as a salesman and got he got back reestablished.
He was invited
with his,
back.
Yeah, he hunted down his old relatives. But it was interesting just that, and a few of them had done actually very well in the government and risen to some high positions. But initially, they had some really hard times. There was this whole thing called the Cultural Revolution, where they were really against intellectuals and things like that, and put them in camps and things like that. And so
killed them.
Not killed them, but they were like in these re-education camps and things like that. And yeah, they had some really hard years. So, but I mean, they turned it around and rose to some good positions in the government. So I don't know. China has gone through a lot of different changes. I mean, I went there during the 80s. I mean, and it was kind of back where everybody's kind of wearing the Mao, thing, and it was kind of starting to modernize. And now you go there, it's like, oh my God, it's just like crazy. It's a modern country. So I mean, they've made progress, but so I mean, how much are they still communists and whatnot? I don't know.
Who knows, right?
Yeah.
So speaking of progress, what do you think about an Asian American rising to the top, maybe, of the democratic process and running for president?
I think it's great. I don't know. Is Yang? That's right. Yeah. I don't know what his chances are. Is he's giving everybody a refund or something like that? That's
no, it's UBI, Universal Basic Income. See, this is the thing. Like, I love Dr. King, Martin Luther King Jr., and he was into the Universal Basic Income. That was part of probably why they killed him. But
right.
That was part of his platform, is why aren't we being taken care of by this government who can afford to give us this income? We don't have socialism per se, but why can't we all just have a dividend? Because Alaskans have a dividend.
That's true.
I think they get $6,000 every year just for being there in Alaska. So why can't the mainland have the same benefit?
Yeah. I don't know if that's just too radical for the U.S. I mean, here's what I feel like. I just want like somebody who thinks in the top office. Like, let's just get somebody who thinks about
Aren't you
stuff.
a dreamer?
Let's just get him in the office first, and then maybe like go with the radical. We're going to take away your AR-15s and whatnot. And I don't know.
I'm pro-gun. I don't think anybody should give up their guns if they're not a threat. If you're a threat, if you have a domestic violence streak or you have racial tendencies that are violent, you should not have a gun. But I'd rather us all have universal basic income rather than give up our handguns, if it comes down to that.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, I just want a guy who thinks, like a thinker. Like seems like he like takes all the issues and cogitates that in his brain and then makes a decision. That's
like
who
Yang.
I want. That's who I want in office, please. Yeah.
So
Right.
what do you and your wife like to do? Like, say that you go and you do comedy and you're away from her, and then you go and you do your flights for
Yeah.
FedEx. What do y'all do? Like, you finally come home and you've been away.
Oh, what do we do? We have, yeah. After traveling all the time, this is what we do. We have an RV and go travel. So we have an RV, and that's what we do. We plan all these like long vacations. We have the RV here at Big Pine, so which I love. It's awesome. It's great. It's like going back to your own house after every day. So
Does she drive or do you drive?
I drive exclusively. Yeah.
Is that your pilot in you?
Maybe, but she has high anxiety about driving. She will tell you that. And then so if she has high anxiety, then I'm going to sit there. I'm not going to like relax because I'm not driving, because I'm going to have anxiety that she has anxiety, and then I'm not going to relax. So I drive mostly. But we have our own tasks. Like there are things that she does in the RV and things that, I do in the RV.
Like what?
Well, I exclusively dump the sewer, so that's what I have to do. But we tow a car, so she does all the hooking the car up. Like, and if I try to do it, she gets all nasty about it, saying that's her.
You
That's
didn't
her
do
job.
it right.
Yeah.
That's
so
not
like,
how it
yeah.
goes.
You're messing it
You
all
think you're
up.
trying to plant a plane on a runway in the middle of the night?
Yeah, she won't let me touch that. She's like, that's her rice bowl, so to speak, that I cannot touch. So yeah, we travel. We go around the country in our RV.
So even if you're not doing comedy, you're on the road.
Well, yeah, we do it like every a few times, a year. But I don't know. Like it is interesting because the traveling, I think that's maybe been a little bit to the detriment to my stand-up comedy career, because I go home, I just want to stay home. I don't want to go out. I just like this is like one of the rare things I do that I've actually traveled out of this Phoenix area to do comedy. So I don't know.
So what's next? What do you have coming up?
For comedy?
Yeah.
It's
Where can we find you?
It's a total blank slate.
So you're available?
I'm totally available.
Excellent.
And I'm certain I will not be getting anything out of the Big Pine Comedy Festival in terms of future bookings. So you can find me at the sports bar in Phoenix talking over the Golden Tee machine and the football game that's on. That's usually where you'll find me.
I think you have way bigger things coming. I do. I think you're fantastic.
I don't know if there's the desire there from me. I mean, I love my job. I do. I love flying. I'm glad because I've been doing it for 25 plus years, and I still love doing that. And so maybe that's why I don't pursue the comedy as heavily as I should. Right? I mean, I really do have a lot of respect for comedians because it's almost like this vow of poverty that everybody takes to do stand-up, and you do it because you love it. And I've observed that, and I go, oh my God, I don't want to do that. Right? Right. So Priorities, yeah. So having a cushy airline job has brought down my stand-up comedy career a lot.
Well, if we are interested in finding you and finding out where you're going to be, how do we get in touch with you?
Okay, yeah, Stan Chen Comedy on Instagram, and then Stan Chen on Facebook. You can find me there, and yeah, I do post when I go up, and I'm really like a lot of stuff in the Phoenix area because I love for 18 years I was in Indianapolis. Have you ever done comedy?
Yeah, I did. Crackers.
Crackers.
I've been there a few times.
Did you?
Yeah.
When was the last time?
Yeah, I was there in 2016.
Okay, so
it's been a while. They closed one of their locations.
So you know Ruth Ann, the manager. Yeah, I hate her. That's
what
terrible.
happened?
I'm sure you encounter this in other cities, but she was very much, you can only work my club, and if you work another club, I'll never work you again. And here's a good Ruth Ann story. I will tell you this, just because I love telling this story. So comedians are hanging out in her office. The phone rings, all right? She picks up the phone. Yes, hello? Uh-huh. Never heard of you. Click. Have you guys ever heard of the Montreal Comedy Festival? They wanted to do like a New Faces showcase. All the comedians
She hung up on...
Yes.
Whoa.
Not interested. clunk. Yeah, it was like,
I don't think that's a good business decision.
oh no. She was like, it's amazing how much she does not know about comedy for doing it, so for managing a club that long.
Well, I don't want to disparage her. I've never had that experience, but I will say there's a lot of people in this business who don't have an idea of what this business is.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ego that makes decisions instead of intellect.
But I love Phoenix. Phoenix is and I didn't even know before we've been there 2 years. I didn't know how great a comedy town it is. It's great.
Huge scene.
Yeah.
Massive talent.
Yeah, a lot of cool people. So I'm very happy.
Well,
Very
you're in
happy
your
there.
element because you're extremely talented.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay.
If y'all are listening, please do find Stan online. He is fantastic. He's being humble. It's probably part of his culture. But
yes, exactly. You're
remarkable gentleman, and I'm thrilled that you would sit down with me today.
Oh,
thank you very
Lisa.
much, and good luck.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you so much, Big Pine Comedy Festival. I really appreciate you having me here. And thank you so much again, Stan Chen. Y'all look him up online. He's fascinating. I think he's super funny. Great clips on YouTube. And please follow me, lisalandry.com. You can join up on my YouTube channel. Subscribe, and you'll know when each new podcast drops every Woman is Wednesday. Or sometimes Thursday, like today. We're doing a special episode because we delayed so that we could promote Big Pine and Stan Chen. Thanks, y'all, for listening. Ari, I love you. I wish you were here with me in Arizona.